Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's Haberman and MIDDLEKAUFF. I'm Guy, and that's John. It's our YouTube channel, and it's our podcast. Like the video if you're watching, subscribe to the channel. And if you're listening to the podcast, thank you. Share it with your friends. Do you have a Tito's Toast today?
I do. Obviously, we're sponsored by our longtime friends, business partners, and just even if they weren't paying us to say this, I'd gladly be supporting the product. I think a well-deserved cheers to, I wouldn't say a once great brand because it always struggled, but a team that had a moment and impacted its sport nationally as much as it did locally, and had fallen on hard times. They set the record for most years straight without a playoff appearances. They get a guy named Mike Brown to come to Sacramento. He starts embracing himself in the community, riding his Harley all over from, North Sacramento to South Sacramento, going to high school football games. Just people don't understand the Sacramento and just the Sacramento down through the valley is a big high school football area.
Mm-hmm.
I know the Bay, some of the Oakland teams, obviously De La Salle and LA, high school football, big recruits, but there's a passion from Sacramento to me down to Bakersfield in these little towns and these programs. And obviously Folsom now is the new De La Salle. And, he just ingratiated himself and then he fucking won. And last night, I got news for you. I've said this forever about the Warriors. They're probably clearly the run is coming toward the end of the streak. But as long as they got Curry, they'll print money. They still matter. The moment that leaves and you just throw in just random Kyrie Irving and James Wiseman and Andrew Wiggins, it's over. And Joe knows that. But for the Kings to kind of have a moment like last night, I didn't watch a dribble, but woke up to it, read about it.
It was intense.
So cheers to Mike Brown for just resurrecting a brand, making them fun, and helping to take down. It's weird, right? Mike Brown's resurrection of his career happened with Kerr. Obviously, he's boys with those guys. Everyone likes him. But that's to lose like they did last year in the playoffs. I went to one of those games, just an all-time Steph, Clay, and Draymond kind of
in sack,
broke their back in game 5. But then they came back and won game 6 and had their heart broken again in game 7. I think it's been a pretty good year for the Kings against the Warriors so far. It feels have the Warriors beat the Kings? I mean, last night was clearly pretty devastating.
Did they beat them the first time? I was watching that game, John. That's a great toast. I also I'll piggyback just to say whoever invented the beam is a genius. Because that's a great little, it used to be like it's like the modern version of flying the W flag in Chicago, where you fly the Cubs 1, or at Fresno State, where they used to fly the John Baxter. They used to fly the W flag.
Do you know why? Because he's from Illinois, goes back for the summer, and he went to a Cubs game, and he thought it was a genius idea. And then Kevin Gosling would raise the fucking thing.
Gosling would do it. Bulldog kicker.
Well, whoever, just the special teamers hung out by the pole. So they'd be like, raise the V. Well, everyone else is practicing. So it'd be like Bobby Shepard, if you're going like this. Baxter's like, woo.
So good. They also stole the numbers on every 5-yard line from LSU and the checkerboard end zones from Tennessee. But that's what you should do. When you're trying to make a name for yourself, you adopt a bunch of traditions. The beam was cool. The game, that game feels different to me than most NBA games I watch, because it's a legitimate, there is.
Was that in sack last night?
It wasn't sack. And, when it's in sack wants it bad.
Yeah.
And the Warriors were up 25. And one of my first lessons as a sports fan, I remember as a kid, was my dad. And I remember I wanted to watch an NBA game. It was the second quarter. And he's like, no, we're not going to eat dinner on the couch. We're going to sit at the table and eat. Don't worry. It'll be a close game in the fourth quarter. And I just remember that every time I look at an NBA game and it's 72-51 at the half. I go, I'll check in on it with 10 minutes to go. And last night, it was a blowout. Then the screen, I get alerted, John, to the Group C stage group play requirements, which are that the Warriors had to win by 12 in order to advance to play Thailand next week.
Okay.
And I got to tell you, as much as I can't figure any of this in-season tournament out, and the key oversight being in soccer, point differential is easy because the scores are 3-2 and 1-0. In the NBA, point differential requires a lot more math. but they just had on the screen like Warriors must win by 12. And I was like, all right. It kind of added a little because they were like up by 10. I'm like, okay, I wasn't just watching that, but I had it on. And my feeling watching it was it might cost them the game trying to win by 12. And I don't know if it did or not, but I don't think it would have mattered. The in-season tournament had nothing to do with why Sack and the Warriors played a knockdown dragout last night. It was a good game.
So the Warriors did not advance, correct?
The Warriors did not advance. I don't know what that means or who they play now.
Well, they give you like two other fake games, and then everyone else advances in the quarterfinals. Like
gotcha.
The Sack, the Lakers,
OKC. I think. Pels make it.
No clue. I mean, why the NBA doesn't start on January 1? Honestly, putting the NBA, I've said this forever about baseball. It's an incredible. There's nothing like the postseason. Throwing in October where nobody watches is pretty dumb in 2023. Like, we got to change. We got to adapt. And no one seems to want to. And they just like, okay, 8 million people are going to watch a World Series. 30 used to. Not saying that 30 would if you put it in August. You would just have a better chance of just being
shorten the season, make it more urgent.
But they just won't.
Put a runner at second, though. We're making progress, John. Baby steps.
There will be a reckoning for everybody. Because now, did you see the Michigan Ohio State?
Baseball teams have lost television deals.
Yeah, well, it's coming with the NBA, who my prediction is Adam Silver will not be the commissioner in a couple of years. They are in major, major trouble. And similar things, like there's just no importance to any of these games. And he tried. I'll give him effort credit with this. But like one thing is evidently clear. The NFL is in a different stratosphere, right? In terms of the amount of people. College football is clearly number 2. I mean, there's not even – they're in their own little world. Like the NBA and baseball would fucking sell a leg to have the importance and the numbers that they draw. Michigan, Ohio State did 20 million people. To put that in perspective, 27 million people watch Niners Seattle, which still feels crazy. What the hell are you doing? Maybe East Coast people fall asleep. I don't know. That number feels low to me, but I also think it shows you
wasn't a good game. That might have been part of it, right?
True. Like everyone's like, God, kind of a down year for the Iron Bowl. They got 9 million people. That's like World Series numbers. And I'm pretty sure Auburn was like a 5-6 team coming into the game. So I mean, fuck. And we were talking off the air yesterday about the little SEC towns, like 9 million people. Do you know what the NBA would do for some of their NBA Finals games? Don't get that many people. Like it's a bloodbath. Football guy has
some of their NBA Finals games over. Get what? Like I've seen. Am I crazy to say that some of them get like 3 million, or that's just more like a Christmas Day will do like 3 mil, right?
Yeah, I mean definitely their playoff games.
Yeah, I mean Washington State did 5.8, Georgia Tech did 5.3. Iowa, Nebraska did 4.4 million people.
I mean, guy, there is not a regular season NBA game.
Missouri, Arkansas did 4 million.
I mean, it's not. I'm a football guy. I do think it's crazy the dominance. I mean, it's not crazy when you factor in how we've lit up here the last several years, but when you just take a step back, like it's separating. It separates by the years. It's crazy.
Lions Packers morning game did almost 34 million.
Now, one thing on Thanksgiving that the NFL, I would say the Cowboys clearly, you put them on good times, bad times, historically, in the modern day, they move the needle. The Packers and the 49ers are clearly 2 of the NFL's top 4 brands, right?
Yeah, but I mean, it just shows what's your best pitch. And the NFL can do basically any holiday. They can pick from a multitude of teams, really, that'll work, right? Like if you replace Cowboys with Chiefs, how much that number falls, but by how much?
Yeah, or Bills or Ravens or whatever, right? Do you know where the NBA has got to be fucking really nervous? LeBron's almost 40 years old and Steph's 36.
Yeah.
I mean, those are the last 2 just like superstars that like when we were growing up would have been like Jordan, Magic, Larry, like on the pantheon of just put them on posters. Every human knows who they are. When those guys are gone, like I got news for you. Brandon Ingram and Ja Morant, no one gives a fuck.
Would Zion Williamson be a bigger star if he stayed at Duke for 4 years?
I think he'd be a bigger star if he just transitioned to be an NFL guard. Like I think it's over. Now, financially, obviously.
I thought you were going to say something else. I thought you were going to make an Ozempic joke.
Does that stuff work, you think?
Apparently.
I've seen Michael Rubin's face. Looks skinny. How about this? Just don't eat as much. Like, have some fucking self-discipline. I don't know.
He's
It's not that difficult.
yeah, it's that guy. Remember when that guy was going to be an NBA star?
Who?
Zion Williamson.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
He's paid like it.
well, everybody gets paid like it. Here's a 10 spot on the stream to say David Carr saying there's no scenario where the Eagles could win makes me want to pump my phone. Thanks for giving Philly some bulletin board material, David. That's from Michael. I did see that clip. Did you see that clip, David Carr? There's no scenario. I don't even understand. Maybe I don't know what scenarios he's not considering, but I mean, if you gave a blank kind of one,
who's the Niners' backup quarterback right now?
The Niners?
Yeah, I don't even know. I mean, do you know who it is?
The 49ers.
Oh, Sam Darnold. I was thinking Kyle Allen. Yeah, Sam Darnold. Okay, so they are
Have
more.
you forgotten how I buttered my bread in July and August, John?
They're. I mean, we saw a scenario last year. They couldn't throw a forward pass. It happened, and the game was essentially over with 40 minutes left in the play part of the game. We had hours left to consume on our couch. Yeah. I mean, the highlight of the game last year for the 49ers was Trent Williams body slamming a guy that he probably still feels pain in body parts. But that was the highlight of the game. Like, there are always injuries. This is football, right? Like, there's no scenario that like a high school basketball team could beat the Phoenix Suns. You know, I mean, there are certain things in life, like there are no scenarios. There are scenarios here. I mean, hell, the Eagles could just, I don't know, beat them. Right? I mean,
doesn't have to get hurt.
Yeah. It's like, did you guys watch? The Niners went through a 3-game stretch where they lost. You know, this isn't the 72 Dolphins. Now, they are the better team, but sometimes the plays don't work. Here's the other thing. Kyle's scheme, and this is why I was critical of the play call that got Purdy banged up. When you go against other teams that don't run kind of the base and a lot of the zone read, I know he doesn't run zone read, but just zone concepts, a lot of it is to fool the backside defensive end and get him to run down. It's why so many boots and play actions work. It's why even in Kyle's offense, when that guy doesn't bite and it's a pass, your quarterback's kind of shit out. Like he kind of either has to throw it away, hopefully the guy's open, or just like hit the ground. Like, it's a disaster play. They're used to seeing it. Like, the Eagles have been a zone concept team definitely since Jalen has been involved. So that quote unquote fool the backside end play, which is an enormous part of his offense. And I watched some of Sirianni's press conference today. He said, like, the best part of just Kyle as a play caller is everything's married together. So it all kind of comes in one. You don't know what's coming. You do know, though, that like when everyone's breaking that way, the backside end just stay home, right? Like, it's not really your play to make, because even if the running back cuts back and he then has the ball, you can make the play. But don't take off because the quarterback keeps it a lot, whether that's design runs for Jalen, whether that's boot actions. But like, I would say the Eagles, like, it's hard to me to fool their ends like you can some teams that don't maybe see that every day in practice. And just, it's a part of their ethos as just a franchise, right? Like, you watch Jalen, a lot of it is him just going the other way when everyone's going left or right? Whether it's his quarterback sneaks, the zone read stuff that he definitely did earlier on in his career. They pass it more now, clearly. But I just think that's an area where going back to that play, and we can, not that we debate the individual play, but like the concept of just fooling that guy, I think is harder against this specific team, right? They are, one, just really talented, and two, they're used to seeing it where the Cowboys for the last couple of years, they've had kind of reckless players beside Micah that aren't sound and disciplined. Like, that's just not the case here, right? These guys, Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, obviously Reddick, like, these guys are very fundamentally sound, like high-level players. Fletcher's older, but like, and he doesn't play on the edge like the other two. But my point is, so no different than the Niners. Like, it's hard to fool their guys. Like, when you play fundamentally sound elite players, you kind of just got to beat them. You can't. It's harder to fool them. I'm not saying you can't do it on a play, but I think you got to be careful. And we talked yesterday about the Brock, like putting him in harm's way. But this gets back to, like, Michael Lombardi always says this. Like, Kyle's offense kind of his offense. He doesn't have a true, like the Eagles do have just now more of a true drop back passing game because they just throw bombs a lot, right? Just like a 3-5 step drop, or even in the shotgun. Definitely in the shotgun a lot. I mean, Jalen's been doing that since college. Like most of Kyle's passing offense is predicated off the run, which is what makes Kyle Shanahan Kyle Shanahan. I mean, it's a complicated issue that I'm not acting like you just scrap the offense, but if he doesn't think that last year factors in, like I do think it's an example of like, let's be really cognizant of the edge guys in place for the health of the guy that, is, regardless of what you think, is at minimum just in the MVP conversation for a reason. Like his health now, I was intrigued to watch Sam Darnold weeks ago once he got the concussion, but I'm actually cool with just watching this guy. He's pretty good.
Well, this guy has shown some qualities that Sam never showed in terms of, being able to process. The other thing you made me think is it's probably easier to trick the guy that Trent Williams is blocking because you're pretty mentally and physically occupied when you're going up against Trent Williams, right? So you don't have 100% of your attention. Your attention is divided. The way that Hassan Reddick could potentially work around Colton McKivitz, it's probably harder to trick him because his attention is not, he's not sitting there going, all right, what move do I need to use to get by Colton McKivitz on this particular play, right? Which
But
makes
there's a reason, though, they fool that side more than Trent's side, right?
You think it's that?
Well, yeah. I mean, I just think you go to that side more. One, it's your right-handed quarterback. It's easier to throw there. And two, it just makes it easier on that guy.
Yeah. So that's the other part of it is, we got to see Brock move a lot in games. We didn't really get to see him run around with those guys in pursuit of him last year because he didn't play.
And maybe Kyle would say, and there's probably some validity to this, I can't run some of these offenses, like some of the plays they consistently run with the more quote-unquote true drop back. Our offensive line's not good enough in the pass game, but substitute 71. I couldn't just rely on them and lean on them.
Yeah. I mean, they might be rotating guards this week. I mean, who knows what they're going to do at guard, right?
Yeah.
Now, even with all that said, you said on the last pod, you could see the scenario where the Niners blow them out. Why?
Well, I mean, they played on Thursday. They've had 2 relatively easy games since coming off the bye, and everyone's been injured in terms of domination. And 3, that I think someone's at the door.
Do you need to go get it? You can go get the door.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah, go. I heard 2 doorbells. I'm like, what was the guy's name that got jailed? Oh, hey, Lolly. No hi for me. Well, John disappeared for a moment. $2. You're only gonna pay me $2 to take a shot at Grant or Nick Wright? Worst Purdy takes. What are Nick? I need a list. I don't know everybody's takes. Jimmy G, 10 spot. Even worse was Michael Robinson scoffing at Carr for saying he'd take Purdy over Hurts for quarterback. And M-Rob laughed and yelled at him that Brock is nothing more than Jimmy Garoppolo 2.0. Shake my head. I might go look at that clip. I don't mind if somebody thinks it's crazy that somebody else's opinion is take. Like if I said take Brock over Hurts and John said you're crazy, I wouldn't think no you must be an idiot. But then to add Jimmy 2.0, that would be the part that makes me scratch my head about how closely he's been paying attention. You being called into, you get served a court order or something?
You guys see me? Hear me?
Yeah. Oh, I bet you. John has the AirPods in, walked away, came back. I wonder if the AirPods disconnected. He's now figuring it out. I can hear him.
You got me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, hey,
Nope,
I'm going to sign back in.
He's going to leave. He's going to come back. Jimmy Garoppolo 2.0 to me, that's pretty outrageous. Just look at people have been. One thing I wanted to talk about today is that the throw that Brock made against the Seahawks. Actually, let me just make a quick little note here, so the podcast listeners don't have to go through this old back and forth rigmarole. Hey, Being served a court order over there? What's going on?
No, they're going to run the fiber. Cox came out of nowhere running fiber, but they asked, "Can I turn your internet off?" And the guy didn't speak that much English, so it was kind of hard to figure out what he was talking about. Then I realized, well, I'm like, well, is the internet going to go down? He's like, well, it would be for like 20 minutes. I'm like, just give me like 15 minutes. Just stay out there for a second. I'll come grab it and then give you the go ahead.
Good.
So the blowout.
Fiber internet, by the way.
Yeah. So here's the thing with the blowout. They're coming off rest. The Eagles have to be gassed. Even Sirianni said, we're not really even practicing today because he was being asked about some of these guys coming back from injury reserve. You know, the window, would they play? He's like, well, it'd be kind of hard to tell today given it's a walkthrough, which, as we talked about on Tuesdays, they're not practicing this week. Like, there is no – you're not going out there and seeing full speed. How could you? They have too many veteran players. The season's too long in terms of, like, they still got a lot left. And this gets back to what we talked about. The moment they beat the Bills, this game became less important. Because they took care of the Chiefs, they took care of the Bills. They can lose this game, beat the Cowboys, and still be fine.
They're also in the same position next week when they play the Cowboys. I mean, you could argue if you're them. I don't think they think of it this way, but you know, if you lose this game, but you beat Dallas because you didn't, you know, go to overtime or play basically the same Bills game against the Niners again, then you're in fine shape. You're still going to be the 1 seed, and you're still going to win your division. If you lose this game in your Philly, let's say you just go balls to the wall, you try to win the game, you lose it. They're in the same position next week in that Dallas played on Thursday just like the Niners did on Thanksgiving. Dallas is going to play on Thursday again tomorrow or today, depending on when you're listening to this. We're recording this Wednesday. So Dallas is the Eagles are going to play a team on extra rest for the second week in a row. And that game, if they're in that spot, if they lose the Niners, they'll be 10-2, and Dallas will be coming in at 9-3. And so all of a sudden, Dallas-Philly becomes what Niners-Philly was going to be if Philly had lost to the Bills.
Cowboys are basically a 9-point favorite right now.
They're at home against Seattle. What did we say in that game?
Yeah, in Dallas.
At home against Seattle.
9-point favorite.
If you had to take one 9-point underdog, would you take Seattle or the Washington Huskies? So how about Washington's got the state of Washington's got 2 9-point underdogs this weekend?
I would take the Washington Huskies. I think Seattle.
So Seahawks Washington fans got a Thursday night game and a Friday game. That's a big end of the week if you're in Seattle.
The problem is you could get mollywopped in both. Joel Klatt was also saying,
you get your weekend though.
Did you hear Joel Klatt say there's a scenario no one wants to hear out west where the Ducks get left out?
If they beat UW?
They beat UW. Alabama wins. Texas wins. Alabama, Georgia go. Michigan goes. Florida State or Texas goes. He's just saying it's out there.
And what? And his theory is Texas, who is 2 spots behind Oregon, would jump because their Alabama win looks more impressive because Alabama.
Well, he was just saying like could just be Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Florida State.
Oh, and there was no Texas. Got it. Yeah, because you'd have 1-loss Alabama who would come from the 8th spot.
He's just saying a scenario is on the table where if Alabama wins, Alabama, he's like everyone's discounting Georgia's the 2-time defending national champion, haven't lost a game in forever. They just might get the benefit of the doubt, and the SEC has a lot of sway.
Yeah. Interesting. Texas is behind Oregon, and the explanation that the committee gave on Tuesday was no one liked their explanation because I think their explanation was really just eye test. Like Oregon just looks better than Texas. And Oregon definitely looked better than Alabama, but you go beat Georgia. I mean, that'd be pretty impressive. Did you see the viral video of the dudes watching the watching the Auburn Alabama game in their garage and the TV froze when Milroe dropped back to pass on 4th down? No. They're filming at first I thought is this fake? Because that's what I think about every video. But the thing just is rolling. The circle is spinning. And they keep their cool. They're like, what's going on? And then it comes back on. Dudes are celebrating in the end zone. They're Alabama fans. They just start losing their minds. And I thought, as much as that sucks, having that play last 15 seconds, pretty cool moment too.
Yeah, honestly, that happened to me a little bit on Sunday. Some of the stream,
really,
for the first time ever.
Yeah. Well, you get that fiber. I've got fiber, John. I'm kicking it 800 8. As long as I'll hit 900 megabits.
But it's not the streaming is the upload speed.
The upload speed is also off the charts. Yeah.
Like,
I meant
like
like
what?
5 or I mean, I could check right now.
Like 500?
Fiber internet. I'm going to do this. Everybody, if you can get fiber, not everybody, they don't have it everywhere, but if you can get fiber internet, you should get fiber internet.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm on the Wi-Fi, John. I'm not even hardlined. I'm getting 925 megabits upload speed. And everybody stand by for download speed. Stand by for my upload speed here. I'm not hardwired. This is on the Wi-Fi. 810 right now.
Upload? Jesus. That's elite.
On the Wi-Fi.
That's elite. That's what my guys are about to do.
Yeah, there you go. Deebo, I said what I said. James Bradbury said he was. I went back and watched those clips this week. It's pretty good to go back and watch the Deebo, specifically the Deebo on I Am Athlete.
Well, guy, he made the Super Bowl rounds and said it to everybody.
But the one with Shady McCoy's like trash. Like Shady McCoy kind of loses it, and Deebo's like, yeah, trash. Deebo was adamant. Like it wasn't. Ayuk said. Remember, Ayuk's quote was like, I think the Chiefs, it was before the Super Bowl. He said, I think the Chiefs are going to expose some of the things we thought we were going to expose. But he's like sitting on a couch, casual, on the SF Niners YouTube channel, hood on, just kind of casually talking. Deebo was out there pounding the table with his takes. And you're right.
But that's kind of Ayuk's personality as a talker, right?
Yeah, yeah.
In terms of the way, like he basically just supports everything Deebo was saying. My issue is always, if I'm Conor McGregor or fucking Mike Tyson or whatever, or Tiger Woods, I only have to worry about myself. Like ultimately, Ayuk and Deebo can run circles around James Bradbury. Like James Bradbury is not as good as those guys. Hell, Darius Slay, who is a good player, is going to struggle with, Ayuk in space. But like there are other guys on the offense, and the guards and centers have to block, I don't know, two of the most unique D-line prospects we've seen in recent memory. One guy is 6'6", 350 pounds, and was running borderline stride for stride with Josh Allen late in the game. The other guy is known as the best prospect in the NFL last year, and he, fell because of character issues. So it's like those guys, and then Colton McKivitz on the outside with Hassan Reddick. I just think you got to be careful.
You think it's irresponsible?
I just think it's unneeded at this point. I get it. I have no problem after the game, fall. I do think it's at this point in time, like, just be the professional. You can talk after the game, but just be like, hey, we're focused.
I think in his mind, it was after the game, right?
I mean, when he's re-asked about it, like I said what I said, just be like, listen,
yeah,
I said what I said last year. I respect these guys. We're ready for the game on Sunday to see who's the better team.
He
did his essential double down middle finger. I'm talking Deebo at his locker.
Yeah.
Which again, Deebo can back it up.
He also did it on Kay Adams' show. And she said, she goes, it was actually it was a really good question. She goes, so do you go to Kyle and say, let me, she was just kind of getting him to sit, trying to get him to say something. She goes, do you go to Kyle and say like, hey, let me help out on Reddick? Like, let me chip Reddick a little bit. Cause it was after Reddick said the other day that the Niners were boo-hooing and crying. And Deebo's like, no, I do whatever Kyle tells me to do. I'm not asking to go chip Reddick, which of course he's not. Like, I think she knows that that's not how it works. But she goes, then she's like, she's just needling him. She's like, oh, I would just think like you would try to get in on him, So basically to your point, he's like, oh no, that's McKivitz's job unless Kyle tells me to go help. I hang out here with Bradbury.
The Niners don't, to me, use their wide receivers to chip.
No, as much. Of course they wouldn't, but I thought it was a good way to just try to needle him to be like, all right, are you going to cash that check too, or are you just going to cash the check with Bradbury, right? I think it's the same point. It's like, well, Hassan Reddick, are you going to do something about that or no? Of course the answer is no. But also, you know what? What if he backs it up?
But Deebo can't.
I'm just saying, what if Deebo goes for 8 and 150 and 2 touchdowns? It's like, oh, fuck. And Brock Purdy comes out of the game healthy and the 49ers win the game. That's also kind of a.
But Deebo, but again, Deebo, Tyreek, the good players can talk shit every single week. It's just the other players who are at a major disadvantage this week.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you had to do the draft of the D linemen, of their D linemen and the 49ers O linemen, it would go Trent 1, and then it'd be about 7 picks before you got to another Niner, right?
Right.
If it was just Niners O linemen, Eagles D linemen, or pass rushers, the kind of hybrids. I guess they run a 4-3, but after Trent,
Would
I
it
don't
be
think
Trent
you'd hear
and then
Niner.
all 4, and then there are 4 D linemen?
4, I think it'd be like their next 7.
And then,
I don't
Brendel.
No fucking chance. I can find a Jake Brendel as an undrafted free agent here.
Oh, I didn't know you got to do undrafted free agents.
I'm saying
a center on this team that you're drafting.
I'm just saying, like, I just meant like draft around the league.
Oh, like a real draft. Okay, got it.
I'm just, yeah, like and the 49ers are fine. You know, I mean, Banks has been banged up, but like, what are we talking about? That's my thing. If your team has holes, you know, this was last year, same thing. You know, it's just you got to be. The Niners have a major weakness in terms of if there's a situation, Reddick versus McKivitz. Now, they do have a couple guys that can help out in Juszczyk and obviously Kittle, but doesn't happen.
That's not who they asked to that's not who they asked to help last year.
No, it was one of Kyle's 17 minions, tight ends that no one is completely replaceable. I believe in what I called, and I would do it again. As quarterbacks like this walking out with like Max Scherzer and Verlander,
waiting for the swelling to go down in a month so we can get his surgery finally.
Again, he said it doesn't matter. My point is football. Anytime you're in a team
quarterbacks
game,
don't talk that way because they're the ones that get hit.
But no players. I mean, I watched Jalen. Jalen would never. Nick Bosa would never say anything. Like, you just kind of handle what you can handle. So you're going to say something. It'd be one thing to me too if like they had Deion Sanders or Revis or just some like all-time great corner, where it was like specifically aimed at him.
Right,
like,
right.
What the fuck are you talking about?
Bradbury. Right, where it's like him, Revis, Jerry, and Deion just going back and forth all week, and everyone's like they're on an island over there of just greatness.
Like Deion and Andre Rison or whoever. It was like clear.
It's Nas and Eminem. It's a freestyle battle. They're just going to do their thing over there.
Yeah. Or if like, you know, if Trent Williams said something, it's like he can hold, you know, it's just him versus the guy. This one is like, what if Reddick and some of these guys really like Bradbury? You know?
Yeah.
We're going to stick up for him through our play.
Yeah.
Brendel's like, guys, fuck, have you seen the size of these motherfuckers? They're huge. I mean, they are massive. My buddies with the Eagles says that Jalen's the best looking guy off the bus, and he's not as big as the other guy.
I mean, 90, which is when he was laying on the ground,
which is his
crane,
which is his mentor, which is weird because he's a second-year player. But like those two guys have been together for like 6-7 years.
Yeah. Zach asks on the stream, genuine question: since we've already seen the alternative, what would the narrative be if the Niners blow out the Eagles? Well, it would be partly and right. It would partly be what we described, right? Like the time, the amount of effort that they've used to put themselves in this position, and maybe they're a little more worn down than the Niners. But the Niners have been on the disadvantage side of the rest, and so now they're in the advantage side. So fine. But I think the other thing that would come out of it, depending on how it looks, is one of these Niners would be in the MVP conversation. And I think right now, Brock. I've seen that throw against Seattle into quadruple coverage dropped into Ayuk all over the place these last couple of days. Orlovsky did something about it today. McAfee show had a breakdown of it today. Chase Daniel did. I saw his video. I didn't watch JT, but I'm sure he did a thing. It's just become like it's non-QB breakdown guys are doing it. And it's just the guy. I think it's an example of somebody playing with absolute superior confidence, which is what Brock has right now. He has. His confidence is at the ceiling. The game in Cleveland didn't rattle him. The game against Minnesota didn't rattle him. The game against Cincinnati didn't rattle him. And, you know, I expect him to try and do some things this week that if the Niners win a game 34-13, or you know what, John, if they win a game 34-33, I think it's the same. I think he's going to make some plays that are just, he's going to have to. And if the Niners win this game, no matter what the score is, unless it's just, you know, 12 for 20 and McCaffrey carries them, then I think Brock is going to elevate in the MVP conversation Sunday night.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I expect him to play well. I expect the Niners to win this game by 10+ points. I really do. And I mean, a huge part of that, like the reason they score is this guy. Like they're an explosive passing offense. Now, the one curveball, if it is raining, it's like every time Moody comes into the game, you're kind of nervous. You're like, is this going to go in? And he's kind of righted the ship a little bit. I would say if it's raining, there's much more intrigue. Like, what's Purdy's deal here?
100%.
Are we good? But to me, if they win by 10+, the narrative is just the Niners are back, which has been going strong now for a while. And then it's just, to me, the Eagles' narrative is either created like, oh, they were just ran out of gas because they beat the Cowboys, everything's fine. Or they were to lose the following week, they got problems, right? Did they peak too early? Is it coming back to bite them? So I think theirs would be like a fluid situation. I think the Niners would kind of be the stamp of approval. Like, okay, 3-game loss, blip, clearly Trent being out and Deebo being out, threw them off, lost a couple weird games. They are the Super Bowl favorites. I think that's just, which kind of feels like it now, but this would validate it.
3 weeks away from the Ravens on Christmas Day.
Yeah.
That's, that would be the next. There's always a next thing to look forward to, and that would be the next thing to look forward to.
Well, that's the craziest part about football is if like, when you win or lose, I guess you're interviewed usually on the field when you win, right? So someone comes right up to you. Like, let's hypothetically say the Eagles win. Like, that was an enormous win. Now we just got to get back and focus on Dallas. Like, you're saying that on the field, you just won. You haven't even taken off your pads yet. Who do the Niners play?
Well, they play the Seahawks on it. Seahawks have extra rest because they play Dallas Thursday. So both these teams are playing a team off extra rest the next week.
In San Francisco, though.
Yeah, home game.
Santa Clara.
Yep. And they play the Cardinals off a bye.
I do think there's a chance that if you ask a lot of 49ers, who do you play after the Eagles, they would not know.
I only know because I'm looking at it right now.
Do you think there would be a decent amount of players on the Niners? Obviously, I'm sure the schedule's around the facility, but
yeah. I in the theory of what you're saying, I agree with you. Yeah. I think they would know just because it's like always around, but
is there anyone on the Eagles that don't know who they play next?
No.
So it's like, that's just, to me, there's a lot of different variables that like not only should the Niners win this game, if the Eagles run out of gas, when I say blowout, I don't expect it to look like some of their previous blowouts, but just be in full control. And I don't think that validates like they're going to win the NFC, but it does put them in position where you're confident playing the Eagles if you got to go back to Philly. And two, that like you had the advantage, fully rest. They did not, and you took advantage of it and shoved the team who has the equal amount. Sirianni said today, like they have some of the best players in the world, right? Like he's not just saying this isn't Belichick talking about some winless team. The Eagles love saying like world champions, and like it's not a world championship. This is fucking America. No one plays. You're not playing some team in Italy or China that fucking has a football team. You're not the best team in the world. Baseball or basketball
team in the world.
Well, then no one else plays football,
right? So you're the best team in the world.
I hate it when they call world champions.
Really? Oh, I like it. I love it because
it's always bothered me.
All right. It's been 15 minutes. It's been 18 minutes since you told the guy 15 minutes. Your internet's about to cut out any second. The next time you see John, he will be rocketing to the moon with upload speeds.
Okay, I'm going to go find it.
That's awesome. All right. Thanks for hanging, everybody. Talk to you soon on the Scoop and on the pod. Later.